February 2023. For several years now, Zahi Hawass and his team have been excavating the Saqqara Plateau in Egypt, a necropolis complex of thousands of years situated south of Cairo, some 30 kilometers from the world-famous pyramids of the Giza Plateau. This is where the famous Step Pyramid of Djoser is situated. There's no overstating the immensity of this task, as the desert holds hidden treasures over several square kilometers. This morning, Zahi Hawass has been called by his excavation teams. After working for weeks, the team members have finally managed to clear out this 15-meter deep shaft. The archaeologist has been conducting research in his country, discovering treasures for 5 decades. And yet, the same uncertainty steals over him every time he's about to explore a new tomb. This time, he has to go down into the shaft by means of a rudimentary system made up of ropes and a basket. When he reaches the bottom of the shaft, he makes an extraordinary discovery.
This is so exciting. The most beautiful moment in my life is the moment when I'm holding this flashlight and look inside.
After thousands of years lying buried in the sand, a magnificent coffin looms out of darkness.
This is incredible, the color, the faces. But what's unique about them, there is no one single coffin is similar to the other one.
The designs that were delicately painted on the wood depicts the face of the deceased. It's like a photo of that period.
The person, before he died, he goes to the workshop at that time. And he will ask the owner of the workshop, I need you to make a coffin for me. Then they will look at his face and they shine his face in this area here.
Zahi Hawass now tries to venture an initial guess of the date of the coffin.
If I look at the style of this mummy, this is the late period mummy, 500 BC, because of the hieroglyphic, because of this scene, and the face is typical late period mummy.
In order for him to find out more about it, the coffin will have to be opened. If the mummy is still inside, it will be an extraordinary find, because it will allow us to advance our knowledge about the still mysterious world of ancient Egypt. Zahi Hawass is about to make a major discovery. 2 years ago, the whole world marveled at the extraordinary discoveries made by Zahi Hawass's team. We were there when these wonderfully decorated, sumptuous coffins were opened.
It looks like the mummy in the movies.
Treasures like this one abound beneath the Saqqara ground.
Saqqara is the most famous archaeological site in Egypt, and actually in the world.
This necropolis complex of about 10 square kilometers was in use for thousands of years, and it's home to thousands of tombs, not only nobles, but also of ordinary people.
Saqqara is situated on the west bank of the Nile, at the gates of the desert. It's an arid and hostile region which conjured up death in the imagination of ancient Egyptians.
The Saqqara necropolis complex practically became a mythical place because people were buried there from the Old Kingdom to the end of the Roman period.
This burial ground has been excavated by archaeologists for over 200 years. It contains numerous architectural treasures that teach us about the Egyptian civilization of the time.
Saqqara wasn't only a necropolis. It was also a complex of sanctuaries where people would pray to the gods for something, mostly the cure for an ailment. It was almost a bridge between the worlds of the dead and of the living.
Here, at this sacred place loaded with history, Zahi Hawass has made his most beautiful archaeological finds. He has a feeling that another fabulous discovery awaits him in the coffin he has just uncovered. The restorers get down to the task of opening it.
يلا بقى. Careful. ها? Open البتاع ده اللي هو
It's an extremely delicate operation because there's very little room down here and the wood is very fragile. Even the slightest impact could turn the coffin into dust.
We have to open it carefully like this. He will take the lid up little by little. Then carefully, when they take the lid up, no harm on the mummy inside. We hope that the mummy in a good condition. Yalla, take it up. Ah, God.
It's a sensational discovery. The mummy is totally disintegrated. The linen bandages come apart in rags, perhaps because the mummification technique applied was not good, or because it was too hastily embalmed. But at closer inspection, Zahi Hawass makes out magnificent ornaments.
Wonderful. Look at this white beads here. This could be remains of a dress that covered the chest and the whole mummy. Oh, I see. Treasures.
Hawass's expert eye soon spots other jewelry pieces that are even more precious.
One beautiful amulet. It's gilded. We have the gold color, and I think this is gold.
This superb gold and turquoise pendant was probably part of a necklace worn by the deceased. For ancient Egyptians, this precious metal represented the flesh of the gods. It symbolized eternal life.
We found hundreds of artifacts, but never discovered something unique like this. Let me see what else.
Another piece.
See another piece?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, is this for the legs? You know this thing that they put it here, the ankle?
This is indeed an exceptional discovery. Finding gold in a tomb is an amazing stroke of luck because gold was a rare and precious metal, and it was exclusively reserved for the pharaohs and the elite.
The wealthiest people naturally took into their tombs a number of gold objects as a show of their wealth and their refinement from a social point of view.
Can I see it?
Yeah.
Ah, you know this thing that they put it here, the ankle?
Gold is a metal that's easy to work, which allowed for the manufacture of bracelets, necklaces, earrings, all kinds of extremely delicate luxury artifacts.
But who was this person who could afford to have in their coffin all these gold treasures? They must have been very wealthy, of a particularly high social status. However, there aren't any inscriptions providing clues to this person's identity. And there's yet another mystery. If this person was buried with so many precious objects, they certainly had the means to pay for a good quality embalming. So why was the mummification so poorly performed?
You know, even the mummy was in a very bad condition, but the mummy rewarded us with beautiful, incredible amulets inside. This is fantastic. This pieces is for a museum.
The amazing finds that this tomb has yielded will be photographed, restored, and eventually displayed in a glass case for the whole world to see. The mummy itself is too fragile to be moved, so it will stay here. The archaeologists will let it enjoy its eternal sleep. The discovery of that mummy with its gold jewelry was certainly historic. But Zahi Hawass wants to go further still, as the archaeologist is above all searching for a much older remains dating back to the Old Kingdom, the beginning of the Egyptian civilization. At his very last excavation campaign before retiring, he's hoping to make the discovery of the century.
It's my dream before I leave this world is to discover the tomb of Imhotep.
Imhotep, a man unlike any other. This sage and most respected vizier is especially known as the genial architect of humanity's first pyramid, Pharaoh Djoser's Step Pyramid, built at Saqqara around the year 2600 BC. That is why finding Imhotep's resting place is the holy grail for all archaeologists.
Imhotep is one of the first recognized geniuses in human history.
He's a Renaissance man of antiquity. He was a Leonardo da Vinci of that time.
Just like that eminent Renaissance inventor, Imhotep dreamed up new concepts. Until he came around, kings were buried in mastabas, these rectangular stone funerary monuments which crown the vaults. But Imhotep decided to construct an edifice that would rise up to the sky in order to facilitate the journey to the afterlife.
Imhotep came up with the idea of stacking 6 mastabas on top of one another, which totally dominated the landscape and had the appearance of the first pyramid.
This 62-meter tall pyramid is one of the most famous monuments of ancient Egypt. The pharaoh Djoser would be eternally grateful to Imhotep. He even had Imhotep's name engraved at the base of one of his own statues, now at the Museum of Cairo, and of which only the feet remain, a testament to the architect's immense renown under Djoser.
It was an immense honor to be mentioned on the king's own statue. Being engraved in stone meant that Imhotep's name would last all eternity. In other words, it was immortalized in the afterlife.
It is this eminent man, this genius, that Zahi Hawass has been trying to find by excavating the Saqqara desert. In all likelihood, his tomb shouldn't be very far from his masterpiece. However, Imhotep and his tomb still elude archaeologists from all over the world. This new archaeological campaign is going to its 4th week already. The archaeologists have decided to open a new excavation field east of where Teti's pyramid is situated. Titanic work awaits them, as it will take several seasons to entirely clear out the site and document everything. Zahi Hawass hopes this field will yield a wealth of remains. While the workers are getting on with their job at the excavation site, he goes to the antiquity storage facility. In here are stored all the mummies and treasures retrieved at the excavations while they wait for further in-depth analysis. Today, this coffin is getting on the examination table. It was discovered a few months ago.
Okay.
The very first thing that Zahi Hawass notices is the shape of the hair. It allows him to determine the gender of the buried person.
The mummy, I think it belongs to a woman, and some parts of hieroglyphic inscription giving offering to the gods.
The coffin wood is remarkably well preserved. It could be cedar, which the Egyptians imported from eastern Mediterranean regions, or sycamore fig, a local tree species. Both types of wood were appreciated because they were particularly resistant and could therefore protect the mummies. While many of the finds date back to the late period, this coffin would go even further back in time.
It looks also older. It's New Kingdom, 1550 BC.
The New Kingdom is the golden age of the Egyptian civilization. The most sumptuous monuments were built during this prosperous period, such as the magnificent tombs of the Valley of the Kings, the Karnak Sanctuary in Luxor, and the grandiose mortuary temple in Hatshepsut at Deir el-Bahari. The discovery of a coffin from that period enables Zahi Hawass to make out magnificent treasures concealed in the lined bandages.
I like this one because it's complete, it's in a good condition, and I hope the mummy will be also in a good condition. Yalla, doctor.
Will the mummy have survived the ages? The time has come to carefully open this coffin that is over 3,000 years old.
Yeah, okay. good afternoon, Mrs. X. Okay, good mummification. The linen is perfect.
During the New Kingdom, the art of mummification was perfectly mastered. For over a millennium, the Egyptians had been enhancing their expertise in body conservation.
There really was this desire of the entire nation to conserve bodies so they could be symbolically used in the afterlife. We must bear in mind that according to their belief, ancient Egyptians needed their bodies to live after death. If their bodies were reduced to dust, their souls, their ka, as they called it, would also die. So they had to preserve their bodies.
To keep a body in perfect condition, embalmers removed the organs and then covered the body in natron, a salt which absorbed all humidity. The corpse was then swaddled with bandages. Thanks to Egypt's very dry climate, the embalmed bodies could last through millennia without a problem.
The coffin is big. It's bigger than the mummy. This is good. Yalla, doctor. Let's start the X-ray.
Zahi Hawass is going to employ X-ray analysis, a non-invasive technique to analyze this mysterious mummy.
يلا.
All of the parts of the body are photographed one by one. This digital plate will send the images directly to the computer.
Any reason in the skull?
No.
The skull was completely evacuated from internal organs, but also the abdomen were evacuated in a complete mummification and embalming process.
Okay.
They didn't use too much resin for the body. That's why we have a good condition of the textile and the body as well.
Human remains are just absolutely wonderful because they really tell you a true story of someone's life.
After a few minutes, the young woman's entire skeleton appears, bringing with it many questions.
Now, tell me, how old was she when she died?
So young,
So young?
18 years.
No.
18 years because the third molar is still not erupted yet.
18 years old.
18, 19 years.
That's a particularly young age, even if life expectancy at the time was 35 to 40 years at most. So what could have caused her death? The archaeologist's attention is immediately drawn to an initial clue.
The teeth this in a very bad condition.
How? She's young. If she's 18 years old, if her teeth is bad?
It's bad, yes. It seems that it's something related to the type of the food that she was eating.
Dental infections were common among Egyptians. There were no antibiotics at the time, and while a tooth cavity is pretty benign nowadays, it could have had devastating consequences back then.
Once a tooth has got a hole in it and it's not treated, that decay will continue down the tooth and eventually the bacteria will access the bloodstream and it can really lead to sepsis, which is a serious thing which can eventually lead to death.
Blood poisoning caused by a tooth cavity seems like a plausible hypothesis to explain the young woman's death. But the examination of the skeleton isn't over yet, and the investigation continues. Both men suddenly spot a strange shape in the images.
There is amulet here.
Amulet?
Yes.
Oh,
Bess, I think.
good.
The object they have just discovered is an amulet in the shape of the god Bes, who was depicted as a bearded dwarf with a big head. Bes was a very popular deity in the New Kingdom.
They really believe that they put the god Bes, the god of pleasure and fun, then she can have a pleasant life in the afterlife.
Ah, there is another amulet.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4.
The custom of placing amulets on a dead person's body developed in the Middle Kingdom 2,000 years BC. Those amulets were expected to protect the mummy. Their power was activated through incantations recited by priests at the burial. Some mummies could have up to 150 of them concealed in the bandages.
And there is another amulet as well. There is too much amulets.
Where? What kind of amulet is this?
Let's enlarge, zoom in. So we have
Zahi Hawass is hoping to find an extremely rare amulet,
the amulet one.
Imhotep. The architect was divinized several centuries after his death. He was considered to be the god of wisdom and of medicine, and as such, he sometimes accompanied the dead into eternity. This time, however, the amulet found on the mummy represents the eye of the god Horus, or the Ujat eye. In Egypt mythology, the falcon god Horus lost one eye in a battle with his uncle. The god Thoth healed Horus's eye and returned it to him. It then became the symbol of regeneration. The Egyptians had the custom of placing the Eye of Horus amulet on wounds and injuries.
The Eye of Horus is the most important tool for healing. They wanted this lady to be healed in the afterlife. When a person had an accident, they were afraid that he will not go to paradise on the mind of the ancient Egyptian. And this is why they put amulets. The Eye of Horus.
This finding intrigues the two scientists. The young woman necessarily sustained an injury. They look for its mark around the amulet, and they quickly make something out.
This is the healed fracture. Also here in broken part of the bone that starts to heal. She couldn't walk, and maybe this causes an inflammation, for instance, a bacterial infection in the place of the broken bones. From this, we would assume that she didn't survive after this accident more than 1 or 2 months.
Quite an unexpected turn of events. While they look into the hypothesis of a dental infection being the cause of death, they suddenly realize that they've been pursuing the wrong lead.
For sure, that fracture made an infection and caused her death. For sure.
While X-ray images enable the Egyptologist to establish what caused the young woman's death, an infection following a fracture, only part of the story can be pieced together, as it's impossible to know what caused that fracture.
Maybe she did fall down, maybe someone hit her. We really do not know what happened. Then we can have many speculations.
The cause of her death will remain forever a mystery. Even though the Egyptians of antiquity failed to save that young woman, it is, however, a proven fact that they had advanced medical knowledge since the Old Kingdom. Imhotep himself was identified as the god of medicine by the Greeks nearly 2,000 years after his death. His temple, situated on the island of Philae, was visited by pilgrims, a bit like the sanctuary of Lourdes in France.
People took to his temple representations of body parts that were damaged, hurt, injured, or sick. As Imhotep was the patron god of medicine, by making those offerings, people hoped that he would heal them.
Signs of medical practice can be traced back to the Old Kingdom. The metal tools found in a royal doctor's tomb could be the oldest surgical instruments ever discovered.
The Egyptian could make an amputation to cut the leg of a workman if he had an accident, and we know one person after the surgery lived 14 years.
During the Old Kingdom, the Egyptians started to build colossal monuments. That's when the 3 famous pyramids were built: Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure. The thousands of laborers who worked on those building sites must have been particularly exposed to injuries.
I'm sure many accidents happened to the workers. So I think there was probably an opportunity to learn a lot about fractures, accidents, things that can go wrong on building sites.
The most irrefutable piece of evidence that medicine was mastered in ancient Egypt is the incredible Ebers papyrus. Discovered in 1862 in Luxor, it contains detailed descriptions of examinations, diagnoses, and treatments for several injuries.
It's long, approximately 20 meters long, so it's a massive scroll of papyrus, which is covered with some 700 medical treatises, remedies.
This famous papyrus dates back to 1500 BC, yet it contains passages copied from earlier texts that could date back to the 3rd millennium BC.
There are medical texts relating to surgery and diagnosing people with medical conditions that are written in a grammatical style connected to the Old Kingdom.
What's most surprising about this papyrus is the fact that one of the authors of its texts could be Imhotep, the man Zahi Hawass has been after for years. The discoveries he's been accumulating may allow him to find out more about the life of this mysterious man. Zahi Hawass has already unearthed dozens of coffins and sarcophagi, and each of them renews his hopes of unlocking part of the mystery surrounding Imhotep. Nabil Al-Dalel is an archaeologist and a member of Zahi Hawass' excavation team. Today he's exploring for the first time a shaft that he believes to be promising. Only people from the elite classes could afford the construction of a shaft like this one. This is a new opportunity to finally find architect Imhotep's tomb.
Hello, everyone. Yes, sir. Hashim. Oh. Take care, Hashim. Take care, take care. It's very dangerous to work here.
Yes.
Because it may be collapsing any time.
Our film crew has been able to follow them in this maze of tunnels of precarious solidity. A sand cave-in may occur at any time. So we must move along these galleries with utmost care, keeping our ears pricked up for any suspicious noise. The hopeful archaeologists start their search in a narrow passageway 10 meters below ground. Like detectives at a crime scene, they look for any clues that might help them make inroads into their quest.
What is this?
Remains from linen.
Slowly.
That means that there is burials out here. Yeah.
The archaeologists are definitely on the right track. They continue investigating when suddenly...
Give me a brush, please.
Brush?
Yeah. Statue.
Perhaps wooden?
I don't know till now. Yeah, maybe wooden.
Maybe.
Yeah. Oh, we can see this statue. Think for Ptah-Sokar. Ptah-Sokar is the main god here in the cemetery of Saqqara. We call Saqqara here Saqqara in Arabic. Saqqara. Why? Because of the god of Ptah-Sokar. That god is very famous for the craftsmen.
This deity was placed in tombs in the hope that the deceased could benefit from the god Ptah-Sokar's protection to travel smoothly to the world of the dead. This statue dates back to the late period, nearly 2,500 years ago. The desert sand has preserved its wood as well as its colors. The prayers of the deceased to Osiris, the god of the dead, are still visible on the back of this piece.
Here we had a hieroglyphic inscription, means Imahu, the respected Uzair. That means that's a person is very respected from Osiris. We are very lucky to find this. Yeah, thanks for Allah.
This splendid statue is leaving the tomb definitively so it can be restored. Then it will be put on display for the public to admire all the talent of ancient Egypt's craftsmen. The statue of Ptah-Sokar is often found in tombs. It usually has a pair of ram's horns with two ostrich feathers on top of them. And it represents two gods combined, Ptah, the god of craftsmen, and Sokar, the god of the dead. Ptah and Sokar were progressively merged into one god, like a sort of hybrid deity that would accompany the deceased on their final journey. All archaeologists are motivated by the same thing, finding remains of the Egyptian civilization, studying, restoring, and displaying them to the public. After discovering the statue, Nabil Al-Dalal is persuaded that the shaft he's exploring still holds numerous treasures.
Hashim, yes. We have to remove this part at first, please.
Yes.
Take care and remove it carefully from that section. Hashim.
Oh,
piece of Ochapti.
oh.
Ushaptis are amulets that represent funerary servants. For the Egyptians of antiquity, the afterlife was a bucolic paradise where the deceased were supposed to till the land. In order to escape farming chores, the wealthiest had Ushaptis to work for them.
Essentially, they are substitute workers or perhaps servants for the deceased. If you're wealthy enough, provided with one for every single day of the year.
Every day in the year, I have one person to do what I have to do instead of me.
It was also necessary to add a foreman Ushapti for every 10 statuettes. Entire Ushapti armies have been found in some tombs. For example, there were 413 of them in Tutankhamun's tomb. They may have been made from terracotta, stone, wood, or earthenware.
That's habit begin from, I think, from the Middle Kingdom and continue till the Greek-Roman period.
Most importantly, this discovery indicates that there is a body buried here. They pursue their search to unearth the coffin, and their efforts pay off. After several hours digging underground, they finally find what the archaeologist was looking for: a magnificent carved wooden coffin.
It's dated to the late period. It still have some colors, special colors, and we will use the restoration department. Then we will see if we want to making a scan about the mummy inside it.
The archaeologist will have to wait a while until he can decipher the mysteries of the person who was buried here. But this tomb has already fulfilled some of his hopes through the discovery of a coffin, a statue, and several Ushaptis, splendors that were thought to be lost in the sands of the desert for all eternity. If the Saqqara necropolis complex is a treasure chest, it is because the Egyptians attached great importance to their resting place.
All those people seriously wanted to prepare for life after death, and that entailed a number of beliefs as well as rules of propriety. They increasingly decorated the graves in honor of the deceased.
And that's why sumptuous objects can be found in the necropolis complexes, like this magnificent stele that once adorned a tomb. Zahi Hawass's team has just restored it.
This is to show how the site is very rich. I really consider myself, I'm lucky to make all these discoveries and to show to the world how my Egyptian expedition are making great work.
This finely carved stele depicts the deceased and his wife bringing offerings to Osiris, the god of the dead. It showcases the entire craftsmanship of the artists of the time and their meticulous attention to detail. They even painted the different skin colors of the figures depicted.
The color still remain. The body of the person is red because he goes to the field. The wife in white because she stay in the house.
This stele is over 1 meter tall, a considerable size. But some of them can be even more impressive. Wealthy people would not hesitate to order veritable monuments of nearly 2 meters in height. Zahi Hawass and his team have just uncovered this magnificent false door stele dating back from 2200 BC. It adorns a rather simple tomb of earth blocks.
If the tomb was not really built from limestone with scenes, they need something unique. Then what's unique here in this tomb is this false door. That the deceased spent most of his wealth in making a beautiful false door.
A false door is a simulacrum of a door that was supposed to allow the deceased to come back to earth from the underworld in order that they collect the offerings before returning to the world of the dead. The discovery of this monument, dating from the Old Kingdom, allows Zahi Hawass to picture what the entrance to Imhotep's tomb might be like. He believes it could have a sumptuous false door like this one, typical of that period, engraved with hieroglyphics to the glory of the architect. It is this kind of clue that will enable the archaeologists to know if they have found Imhotep's tomb. This particular tomb is more modest, and the inscriptions will reveal its owner's name.
His name is Baku. Then we can see Baku.
The name is phonetically engraved. The crane and the basket stand for the sounds bak, and the chick stands for the sound u.
He was a priest who was giving offering inside the temples. The priest of the pyramid complex of Merindra.
This mysterious Baku was then a god's servant, which was a very prestigious position in ancient Egypt. But what were his duties exactly? We asked that question to Jean-Guillaume Olet-Pelletier, an expert on hieroglyphic decipherment, and he made a pretty astonishing discovery.
The great thing about this stele is that there's an inscription saying that he accomplished uput, a mission, as unique friend on behalf of the sovereign.
4 hieroglyphics convey that information. The owl and the mouth mean director. The cow's horns and the small loaf of bread mean mission.
So he must have gone away on a mission for the king, probably to Punt or Nubia.
He was perhaps sent there to collect gold and precious stones for his pharaoh. We will never know for sure the mission Baku was entrusted with. But since the deceased decided to have it engraved on the stele for all eternity, it must have been a mission of capital importance. Discovering the tomb of a high dignitary of the Old Kingdom leads Zahi Hawass to hope for even more majestic finds. Because there are often several tombs of nobles in the same area, the archaeologist is certain that Imhotep is not far away. A delicate operation is getting underway today. The teams are going to remove from the bottom of a shaft a magnificent coffin that was discovered a few days ago. Only a high-ranking person could afford such a beautiful grave. Zahi Hawass may have finally reached his holy grail, Imhotep's tomb. He studies all the details that may enable him to work out the identity of the person who was buried here.
This is another beautiful coffin. It's big, beautifully decorated. And you have many gods here, many of them. It has Horus in the 2 sides with the sun god, Rahurachti. And you have the Anubis guarding the cemetery, a part of the Book of the Dead. I have to examine that carefully and take this coffin up there and do the X-ray of the mummy that we will discover inside.
The restorers must prepare the coffin for its removal from underground up the shaft. It's a delicate procedure in such a confined space. The coffin has to be covered and strapped with the utmost care. This piece hasn't been exposed to daylight for over 2,000 years and is particularly fragile. Once it's ready, the most critical step is about to begin: lifting the coffin above ground. There are no machines adapted to remove a piece like this one. They will have to do it all by arm strength.
Okay, we're ready. Wait, slowly, slowly.
One false move and the coffin may get smashed to pieces at the bottom of the shaft, destroying all hopes of finding an intact mummy inside. After 3 hours of hard work, this treasure is finally removed from its tomb. It has to be taken immediately to Zahi Hawass's tent, where it will be studied, sheltered from wind and sun.
Start.
The big moment has arrived. They're going to open the coffin. Is the mummy still inside it? And if so, is it in good condition?
يبقى كده تبقى صح. ها؟ Okay, perfect.
And the mummy is there. The discovery of such remains is always a magic moment. They'll enable us to go back in time and piece together this person's story. However, the mummy is in precarious condition. Some parts of the body are particularly damaged, and the linen bandages have become dark. The mummification technique suggests it's from the late period, nearly 2,000 years after Imhotep's death. This is not what Zahi Hawass was hoping to find, but it's nonetheless a spectacular discovery.
They use lots of resin, and the resin make all the mummies black like this. And this is the style of mummification on 500 BC that you can see all they cover the face and they have bands like this all over the mummy. It's a man for sure. And the X-ray will give us more about the person. Now we can know about the age of death, what kind of diseases he had. Did he die of a disease or normally?
Bassem Gihad is now going to X-ray scan the entire mummy. The images obtained through this procedure will provide details of the mummy's anatomy, and it won't be necessary to remove its bandages, as was the case in the past. But to make sure he does not miss anything, he has to methodically photograph every single part of the body. As the first images appear, the mummy finally reveals its secrets.
A man or a woman?
A male.
A male, exactly as we thought.
He's really old, above 60 years old.
Above 60, yeah, he looks old.
Yeah.
You mean he died 60 to 65?
60, 65, yes.
65 years old. Definitely a venerable age for the Egypt of the pharaohs, as people rarely lived beyond the critical age of 50. That said, mummies of people who lived longer have reached us, including pharaohs. Ramses II died at the impressive age of 92, which was an incredible feat for ancient Egypt. The man who was buried here was undoubtedly among the oldest in his community. Those who reached his age often suffered from many ailments that are nowadays associated to old age, like osteoporosis, bone thinning, dental decay. There are visible signs of some of those conditions in this old man's skeleton.
The teeth are totally in a bad condition, and also most of the teeth were lost, and also some of the bones were showing inflammation. Some of the contraction in the vertebrae.
What does this mean?
Heavy loads.
He had a problem in the backbone?
Yes, in the backbone.
He had no diseases at all, but he has problems in the backbone exactly like we had with the mummy of Ramses II. The same problem.
When the mummy of Ramses II was analyzed, it revealed that the pharaoh suffered from back problems, probably caused by the loss of bone density as a result of his advanced age. The existence of damaged vertebrae is therefore pretty logical, given this man's advanced age when he died. But on the other hand, something unusual grabs the attention of Zahi Hawass and Bassem Gehad.
The vertebra also is like, he's like a bit he's not well positioned. Head is twisted to the side.
The head is turning like this.
Yes, twisted this way. But also at the foot, all the fingers of the foot are twisted on the wrong position.
Here.
Here.
Yeah, it's clear, yes.
Some broken bones, but this is not from before, it's after this.
The images show that this fracture never began to heal. Everything leads us to believe that the body was broken after death. But why? A new mystery for the Egyptologists to elucidate.
He had many fractures because of the coffin is smaller than the body. This is why they squeezed the head, it turned to this side, and they squeezed the leg, it turned to this side. This is actually the first time in all the mummies that I scanned in my career that I see a mummy in this position.
Zahi Hawass is stupefied. What could explain the fact that the mummy was unscrupulously crushed so it could fit into the coffin? For the archaeologist, there's only one explanation possible. The man died unexpectedly, and his family had no time to prepare a coffin suitable for his size.
Maybe this is a coffin that was not really made for him. Maybe this is what they had in that time. They did not have a coffin to fit him, and therefore, with putting the mummy inside like that, still the person will go safely to the afterlife because mummification is good. Scenes in the coffin are perfect. All the guts are protecting him.
This superb coffin in which he was buried shows that his family did want to give him a quality grave. The paintings invoking the blessings of the gods were made on it to ensure that his soul would enter the kingdom of the dead, in spite of the narrowness of his resting place. This fascinating and unprecedented discovery proves that we still have a great deal to learn about the Egyptians. Extraordinary discoveries have been made during excavation expeditions in Saqqara. The scanner revealed amulets concealed in a mysterious mummy. Magnificent gold jewelry were unearthed. And a statue and ushaptis were dug out of the sand. Every single tomb and artifact teaches us something new about this illustrious civilization of antiquity, which dominated the world for thousands of years. And this adventure is far from over.
Egypt hasn't revealed all its mysteries. It's an archaeology book with many pages yet to be read.
The archaeologist's discoveries related to the Old Kingdom enable us to learn a bit more about the first centuries of the Egypt of the pharaohs, in which Imhotep lived, leaving no mark other than his architectural masterpiece.
Imhotep was so famous in ancient Egypt, and one of the most bizarre things about him is how little we have of his actual lifetime contemporary to him.
But Zahi Hawass keeps his hopes up. He is certain that he will make the most beautiful archaeological discovery of the 21st century.
I really believe the discovery of the tomb of Imhotep will be more important than the tomb of Tutankhamun.
According to Egyptologists, it will still take several decades to unlock the secrets of the Saqqara grounds. But at each excavation expedition, new stories enrich the great book of our knowledge about this vanished civilization.